Alright, so here's the homework for Module 1, Lesson 8, 5th grade. And I've made some revisions on the actual page numbers. So we're doing math page 37, number 1, all, and page 38, all. And the bonus is on page 37, number 2. So I already did an example in class for A, number 1A, so they can use what I used in the concept board. Here I'm going to go ahead and go to B, which should emulate, kind of look like the B for the homework. So this is asking for us to round to the nearest tenths, hundredths, tens, and hundred. So the first one will be for the tenths. So I'm going to use a vertical number line to do to the tenths. So what I have been telling the students is to find the tenths. So the 9 here is in the tenths, and I'm going to box everything up into that 9. So I'm going to write that number down here. Now I'm going to go to the top, and I'm going to write that number plus 1 more tenth. Now if I did 1 more tenths, it will actually change it to a 2 here. And I want you to see that basically 19 tenths plus 1 tenth would be 20 tenths. Alright, so what I'm going to do now in the middle is I'm going to rewrite what I wrote on the bottom one, and I'm going to add a 5 as the midpoint. So this is where the middle is. What's in the middle of 141 and 9 tenths and 142 and 0 tenths? Well, 141 and 95 hundredths. So now we see that the 5 is in the hundredths place. So we're going to compare this 5 to what's in the hundredths place here. So right here I have a 9, and is a 9 greater than or less than the 5? You should see that the 9 is greater than. So I'm going to place this here. I'm going to circle here. I'm going to write that number down. I'm going to write that number down at the bottom, because 141 and 999 thousandths is rounded to 142 and 0 tenths. Okay? Sorry for the ruckus. I hope you see that. So I'm comparing the 5 hundredths times the 9 hundredths. There's another place I can show that. So I'm going to compare these two numbers here, because everything in front is the same. These are the two numbers, the 9 and the 5, that I'm comparing. The 9 hundredths and the 5 hundredths. Alright, so now we're going to the hundredths place. So again, I'm going to box up to my hundredths place, which is right here. And if you need, you can always use place value chart. So I'm going to copy that number down, 141.99, also known as 141 and 99 hundredths. I hope you see that we're going to have the same kind of problem here. So we're going to have 142 and 0 hundredths. And why I need to put those two is because we are going to the hundredths place. Okay, in the middle we're going to copy what's on the bottom, and we're going to add a 5 in the next place value. So again, we're going to compare here, and this time we're actually comparing the thousandths place. And we can hopefully see that the 9 is greater than the 5, The 9 thousandths is greater than the 5 thousandths. So we are again going to circle this top one, and we're going to write it down. I am including the zeros because we're going to the hundredths place, and we want to show that we know that it's going to the hundredths place. Next up, we're going to the 10. The 10, it's 4 tens. So there's a little bit of a difference here. We are going to copy down the 1 and the 4. But since we're in the more than 1, we're going to have to put something there. We're going to add a 0 here. And we're going to add 10. Why 10? Because we're going to add one more 10. So we're going to add 10, so that's 150 up here. So 14 tens, we're going to add one more 10, and that would be 15 tens. So again, we're going to copy what's on the bottom. And actually that 0 is going to turn into the 5. Because what's in the middle of 140 and 150? 145. So this time, when we have our number, we are going to be comparing the ones place. And hopefully you can see that we have a 1 in the ones place. So this time it's going to be less than, and we're going to circle our 140. So when we round 141 and 999 thousandths to the nearest tens place, we have 140. Again, we're comparing what's outside the box. So here we have the 1, and we're comparing it to a 5. 1 is less than 5. Here we have that 5 is less than 9, and we're also doing 5 is less than 9 here. Oops. Now we have 100. Now when we look at the 100, it's our 1 here. So we're going to put a 1, and then we're going to put those zeros in. What's one more 100? 200. What's in the middle between 100 and 200? You guessed it, 150. So what are we going to compare? Sorry, that didn't work, so let me get this one here. We are going to compare the tens place. So we're going to compare the 4 to our 5. And the 4 is less, so it's going to go right here. 4 is less than 5. 4 tenths is less than 5 tenths. So our answer here is going to be 100. 141 and 999 thousandths is closer to 100. Hopefully that helps you out with 1B. Now I'm going to jump to 3. And this one is asking something very similar to what is asked in the book. What is the maximum possible value of the number? And you're going to use words and the number line to explain the reasoning. So a decimal number has 2 digits to the right of the decimal point. If we rounded it to the nearest tenths, the result would be 13 and 7 tenths. So we know that we have a number, our original number. We know that it's going to be 2 digits to the right. And when we round it to the nearest tenths, it's going to have 13 and 7/10. Okay? So that should tell us that we should know that we're going to have a 1, a 3, and a 7. And of course, we don't know what the number is going to be on the right. Actually, they give us a good hint already on what they made up on this one. So when we round, we know that we're going to round to the nearest tenths. And they already circled the answer here as our answer when we round it to the nearest tenths. Now, we can use that number on the top of here, because we can also give an answer of 107/10 to the top. What's the bottom number? 136. Excuse me, 136/10, or 13 and 6/10. So everyone hopefully can see that. We're going to go ahead and look at the maximum possible value of this number. So we need to find something that's going to be hopefully you can see this, less than 13 and 75/100. What's going to be the closest without going over? So we need to find what would be right here. Well, hopefully you know that the number that it's going to be is 13 and 7/10. And then what's less than 5? What's the highest number that's closest to 5 without going over? 4. So that's the maximum. So that's the way I would show it on the number line. Now it does ask us to explain with words. Interesting. They changed something, sorry. I was looking at something. Actually, I changed the wrong page. So I was just checking. So the midpoint is 13 and 75/100. So the max possible has to be less. It has 2 digits to the right. I'm just copying that from what it says. So 13 and 74/100 is closest. To 13 and 75/100. If it was 13 and 75/100, we would round up to the 13 and 8/10. So that's why it cannot be that one. So on this one, we want to find something that is going to be, again, close to the midpoint. But this time it's going to be just over the midpoint. Just over the midpoint. So we're going to write our midpoint. And we're going to add the 5. We're going to copy what's on the bottom and put the 5. Okay, so we basically need to find the one that's right above it. So hopefully with what you saw on the previous one, you can see that it's going to be 13 and 6. And then what's going to be one higher? Well, it's going to have to be another 6. So we're almost going to copy this the same that we said up there. Minimum needs to be greater, almost the opposite, than the midpoint (13 and 65 hundredths). So, oops. So 1/100ths. Sorry. More would be 13 and 66 hundredths. So I basically just added one more than the midpoint. So this is a different way of writing it. So that is some help for those. Your question is very similar. Your question asked something very similar to this. I'm just looking at it right now. Hope it didn't change from what my copy. Sorry about that. It has a decimal number that has 2 digits to the right of the decimal point. If rounded to the nearest tenths, it is resulted in 18 and 6/10. So you're only going to the tenths place. Okay? So we went to the place also. Oh, never mind. It's almost exactly the same. All right. So do your best. Always do your best. Do or do not. There is no try. Oh, I was going to say bonus word. Bonus word. Let's see. Labor Day.